And we are back here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, author, just overall brilliant woman. Julianne, welcome back. Welcome.
It's always good to be with you. You know that. I think I just come by for the compliments.
Well, well, you come to the right place. You've come to the right place. So I'm going to start off with a question that I've been asking just about all the guests.
Okay.
What is in this 2024 election for the African American community and other communities of color?
Okay, folks who have a little time on your hands, don't read the whole Project 2025 because it's 900 and some pages. Read the introduction. If you read the introduction, you'll understand what's in it for us. Project 2025, or what does he call it? Project
47.
Yeah, the same thing,
right.
Different flavor.
He denies them both, by the way.
Well, of course, we know that certain people, if they had a collision with the truth, they wouldn't know what it was. They would have called it a hurricane. Our economics, our voter access, there are 55,000 roughly black people who have federal jobs. We've changed the nature of the federal civil service. You know, disproportionate number of those jobs are black women jobs. We can't afford to lose those jobs. Think about those implications on the economy and on the economy of the District of Columbia. You know, we won't live. I mean, imagine that 10,000 black people lost their jobs in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
How are the ripple effects on that? It's a difference between, I mean, frankly, Wilmer, I say this. Presidents do not cure inflation. So we heard both our beloved vice president say, I will deal with inflation on day one.
Right.
And we heard the other guy say, I can manage inflation. No, that's not president's jobs. It's the Federal Reserve. Mm-hmm. And if you choose to deal with it, it's legislative. You can't even do an executive order to get rid of inflation. So I know that that's what people want to hear because people are grappling with rising prices. Right. But here's what we do know. There's more likely to be intervention on the legislative side with a Democratic president than with a Republican one. You just go down the list and say, what's important to you? The only people of African descent who might gain from a Trump presidency are multi-billionaires. And most of them have too much of a social consciousness to share that, even if it's true.
Right.
The billionaire tax cut doesn't want to give more money to people at the bottom, but give more at the top. The child tax credit, which pulled millions of children out of poverty during COVID. Kamala and team would extend that. That's a proven way to reduce poverty. Mm-hmm. The R's probably only give it to people who are not childless. I mean, or what Mr. Vance and his little cat ladies. Now, for the record, I am childless. I got no cats, no dogs, no fish. I don't have enough affection for many humans to have extended to cats or dogs. But they say that they're pro-family party, but they're not. So what we have to look at and we have to say is, what's in it for you? Again, nobody's going to fix inflation, and we can always expect economic fluctuations. Today we learned as an example that the Bureau of Labor Statistics overestimated job creation. So the economy actually generated almost 800,000 fewer jobs than we thought it did. But it still generated more than it could have. It still kept the unemployment rates low. So economic fluctuations go with the territory. And the question is who you appoint to the economic committees, like the Fed, the FTC, who's getting appointed there. You're also looking at what your philosophy is. The Republican philosophy is non-intervention. Just let the market rip. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter who, the Democratic philosophy is intervene when you can.
So I have a brilliant economist with me, so I'm going to ask two economic questions. The first one is on dealing with inflation. Mm-hmm. The Fed has been using interest rates as their tool for dealing with inflation. Mm-hmm. But this is not a demand side inflation. This is a supply chain problem.
Precisely.
So I would say political economy was one of my areas.
Okay.
That they're using the wrong tool because they only have one tool in their toolbox.
Well, they only have one tool in their toolbox. Many of us believe that they probably should have lowered the rate a couple months ago.
Okay.
And in fact, a couple of the governors of the Fed gave talks that sort of said, well, we're looking at it. They can't say we're going to do it because they would give away. I mean, the part of the Fed is it's a mystery to many people.
Right.
And to many people who are very economically knowledgeable. So, you see the stock market betting on what the Fed is going to do. So
Right.
the Fed doesn't do it, the market goes down. The Fed does it, the market might go up. But there's no science to it.
Right.
The science is to look at what's going on. Do we need to contain inflation? Prices too. The science is looking at the indicators. But the science is not, if you do X, Y is going to happen.
Tax cuts. George Bush was big on tax cuts. In fact, we can go all the way back to Ronald Reagan and what his vice president called voodoo economics. The whole myth that if we cut taxes for the wealthy, that will put more money in their pockets. They will then take that money and somehow mysteriously it'll rain on all of us and we will benefit. Donald Trump, huge on tax cuts. I have not seen any residual return on those tax cuts. They have done with them what the wealthy do, keep the money in their bank accounts.
Precisely. The theory is you get a tax cut, you'll spend more money, the economy will expand. You get a tax cut, you'll hire more people, the economy will expand. We have not seen that. What we've seen instead with the Trump tax cuts is people kept the money. They didn't even invest it in their own companies. They invested in the bank, and they got the interest rate and all of that. And that's what people, they're operating, they're predatory capitalists who are operating at their own interest. They're operating in their own interest. Don't give anybody a tax cut as a public good because they're not going to use it as a public good. Give the middle class, working class some tax cuts. They, I guarantee you, will spend that money.
That was going to be my next point. If you expand the economy from the middle and the working class out, first of all, there are more middle and working class people than there are billionaires and millionaires. So if you expand it from the middle out, as Reverend Jackson would say, the rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. You don't put the money in the boat that's already at the top, but you put it in the rising tide. Mm-hmm. And it's a guarantee, Wilmer. It's a guarantee that if you have someone who's at the periphery in the economy and you give Boo $300 extra a month, that's going to be food.
Right.
That's going to be rent.
Right.
That's going to be bills. It's going to be economically expansionary. You give somebody at the top, maybe they might buy a yacht or something, which might be economically expansionary, but they're not going to invest in the economy in the way people at the middle and the bottom would.
So if you can look into camera number 3, and if you were to give 3 of the primary reasons why people in communities of color need to be engaged in 2024, what are the 3 things you want them to understand?
Number 1, what do you want 2028 to look like? I mean, we have an opportunity to do some building. The economy has not been perfect. Everybody knows that. But who's going to build it back better? And that's what President Biden said, build back better. And the infrastructure bill is a singular achievement of his administration. So number 1 is just what you want our country to look like. Number 2, if you're a woman, do you want bodily autonomy? Do you want to be able to decide what happens with your body? Or do you want your doctor to go to jail? Your doctor to go to jail because he chooses to treat you in a way that you mutually agree is the way to be treated. Number 3, I would definitely look at education, Wilmer. Mm-hmm. Eliminating the Department of Education, which is a goal, would mean eliminating Title I, which is money that goes to schools that have poor children, basically, want of a better word. It would probably do all kinds of things to our HBCUs. But the Department of Education is critical.
2 things, because I want to be sure that one, Title I, because a lot of folks think, Title I school, it must be a bad. My son went to a Title I school, and one of the reasons why, the additional money they received, they were able to provide more programs to everybody in the school.
Title I schools in and of themselves are not bad. Well, Title I schools are schools that enroll large numbers of impoverished children or children who live in an impoverished census tract.
Right.
Because I'm sure your child was not poor. But
no, he wasn't. And no, he's not.
But in impoverished census tract.
Right.
So that means that there are fewer resources coming to those schools, and that's why Title I says, since you're not getting enough resources, here, we're going to supplement that. You
mentioned HBCUs. I'm a proud alumnus of Howard University, PhD and master's from Howard, BA from Hampton. Big shout out to Hampton. Why is the funding to HBCU so important and so important to you?
As you know, I'm a former president of Bennett College for Women.
Right.
And the Title III money is the money, it's higher education Title I. So when you have either some poverty, you have some issues. It's with not having invested in infrastructure, and you know why we don't invest in infrastructure?
Right.
Because we don't have the money. So all those reasons are to do Title III. Now, they don't just hand you a check. We actually have to go through a very complicated process to write your Title III application. This is what I'm going to do with the money.
Right.
And this is why it invests in educational purpose. But I'll tell you, one of the things I did, it was one of my tricks, which is why my bag of tricks probably got me separated. But I used some Title I money to pave some of my sidewalks.
Okay.
Because we'd had 3 young ladies fall. That's a risk, and it's an insurance risk.
Right.
And the appearance of the campus, frankly, it serves educational purpose. So a couple of people said, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, oh, well.
Dr. Julianne Malveaux, thank you so much for time. Thank you for your work. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist extraordinaire, brilliant woman, and just a flat-out wonderful person. Thank you so much for your time.
Brother. Appreciate you.
Folks, we are here, Politics in Color. We are here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. There's still a whole lot more. Stay with us.